If you ever try to style the select element with CSS, then you know it's hard to make it look good. But luckily, this has totally changed. We no longer have to build custom dropdowns with JavaScript, because the native select element has received a massive update of CSS features. We have now got all sorts of customization options for the picker, for the arrow icon, and much more. In this video, I will teach you how to use these new styles to build better looking dropdowns. My name is Fabian and you're watching Coding to Go. But first, how do we unlock these new features? In HTML, I have a normal select element with a few options. And in the browser, that will get me this ugly default select dropdown. But if we go to the CSS file and address the select element, we can apply the appearance-based select. Now, this line is incredibly important, because this is what opts us into the new customizable select model. You can already see how the default version now looks different, even without having applied any other styles. Now, at this point, I should mention that this is a quite new feature, which is not supported in every browser yet. But since this only affects the styles of this element and not its functionality, it's not really a feature-breaking problem if it's not supported. It just doesn't look as good in the browsers where it doesn't work. But for transparency, I will keep two browsers on the screen for the entire video. I have Chrome, where it does work, and Firefox, where it's currently not supported. That way you can see the differences. Now let's talk about the biggest conceptual change. Traditionally, the closed field and the open dropdown were one single browser-owned piece. So, if I apply a background color in the default version, both the select and the dropdown will have the same color. But if I use appearance-based select, both on the select and on the picker pseudo-element, which looks like this, then both elements now use the new style set. And here, these elements are separated. That means the select represents the closed control, and the picker is the opened menu. That means any styles, like the background color, is now only applied on the select and not on the picker. That is great, because we can style it completely differently if we want to. You can style the border edges, background, padding, everything you would expect. Whereas in the old version, all of these styles are ignored, and both will use the styles of the select text selector. Next, let's style the picker icon. There's this little arrow inside the closed select. We can target it with : picker icon. Think of this element like a simple text box, where the icon itself behaves like a text character, which means to change the size, we use the font size property, and to change the color, we don't use background color but color, because this is text. If we do change the background color, you will see the box of this element. We can also add a border, a padding, and even a height and width to use all the properties of the box model. So you can see here below options for this picker icon. But let's remove these ugly styles and focus on what actually matters. When I change the font size of this icon, you can see that it moved up a little, because the text is aligned to the style of its box. And as you know from normal text, we can use text align for horizontal alignment and align content for vertical alignment. So I can place it anywhere inside this box, at the start, at the end, or in the center. Now another cool thing about this icon is that we can also animate it. You could add a keyframes animation, where you rotate the element, and then apply the animation to the picker icon. This is just to show that you have all the customization options you would expect from a normal CSS element, which makes this base select much more advanced than the native select without these options. Now a natural use case of this would be to indicate whether the dropdown is expanded or not, then rotate the arrow in that direction. But we don't need a keyframes animation for this, so we can remove the keyframes and the animation property here, and instead, let's just use a transition. Now to rotate the element, we want to check if the select is open, so we can use the open pseudo-class for this. This checks the state of the select element. When it's open, I want to target the picker icon, so I also add this to the selector. And here is simply rotate. Now, when I click on the select, the icon rotates. If I use negative values, it will rotate the other way around. Perfect. Now, if you don't like this triangle and you want to change the shape of the icon, you can use the content property to insert any other text character. On Windows, I can press Windows period to open the emoji menu. Here, you can find all sorts of mathematical symbols that would fit for this kind of thing, but keep in mind that this is really meant for text characters. If you have an actual image file for your own icon, it would probably be better to remove the icon and use a custom after pseudo-element instead. Now, if you thought that was it, let me tell you there are even more things that we can customize, because what we haven't even told you yet are the options inside the select. Of course, they can be styled too, with padding, color, and so on. But much more interesting are the pseudo-classes and pseudo-elements we have for the options. For example, the option checked pseudo-class is used to style the selected option. For example, here we could change the background color to highlight that this element is selected. But you can also see this checkmark over here. This is customizable too. with the checkmark pseudo-element. Here, the same logic applies that I already explained for the picker icon. We have both the box model related styles we'd expect, like padding, borders, and so on, and you can also replace the icon itself with the content property. Another new element we still have left to style is select content, and I don't mean the option checked that I just told you about, but rather a new HTML element we can add to the select. So in HTML, inside the select we can now add a button, and inside that button, we place the selected content element. We leave this element empty, there's no content needed. It only exists so that the browser can insert a clone of selected option into that element. So under the hood, it uses clone node to place the content of whatever option is selected right into this element. And since this is a normal HTML tag, we can target it in CSS with its tag selector, selected content. Then you can add any styles you want. Now, if you like this kind of video, let me know in the comments what I should cover next. And click on this video to learn more about web development. My name is Fabian, and this was Coding to Go.